It was exactly 9:20 a.m. when the bombshell hit. Chief Justice John Roberts sent out those 13 cold words announcing his resignation. But it wasn't some quiet retirement. A leaked secure extraction order showed up online minutes later, proving this was no voluntary step down. It looked like he was being pulled out fast, like someone dodging a storm. The whole thing pushed him into political freefall, and folks in Washington knew something bigger was brewing. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett didn't waste time. She stormed into the closed-door congressional oversight briefing on Capitol Hill, the kind of meeting meant to keep things under wraps and stabilize institutional confidence. The room felt tense, like a pressure cooker about to blow. She didn't sit or wait her turn. Instead, she slapped a thin folder down on the table, full of logs and timestamps that screamed foul play. "Stop lying to everyone here," she said, staring down the committee chair. "Routine resignations don't come with armed escorts and blacked-out vans. This was forced, and you're covering it up." Whispers turned to murmurs, but Crockett kept going, pointing out how the extraction order matched panic-level protocols usually saved for threats or scandals. The chair tried to brush it off, muttering about speculation and keeping things professional. Crockett wasn't having it. She leaned in close, her voice steady but sharp. "Speculation? I've got the data right here. Court rulings that always land in favor of the same big multinationals, over and over." That's when she cranked up the drama. She pulled out her phone and hit play on a hacked audio clip from a junior clerk insider. The voice crackled through the speaker. The judge was warned about incoming subpoenas. He had to get out before they hit. The room exploded. Shouts erupted from all sides. Aides jumped up trying to grab her folder and shut her down. One guy even lunged across the table yelling about classified info, turning it into a full-on physical standoff. Crockett held her ground, shoving the folder back and daring them to touch it. Security hovered at the door, but she didn't back off an inch. Things escalated quick. Crockett demanded full disclosures right then. Financial filings, internal memos, the works. "If this is clean, prove it," she snapped. "Otherwise, I'll take it public myself." The committee squirmed, eyes darting around like they were caught in a lie. Then she unveiled the first spreadsheet, projecting it on the wall. 50 suspicious rulings tied straight to massive corporate wins, with money trails that smelled rotten. Gasps filled the air as the numbers sank in. Environmental cases, antitrust stuff, all bending the same way. The chair hesitated, but Crockett pushed hard. "Call the vote now. If you think hiding this is smart, put your name on it." The tally dragged on, tense as hell, with votes flipping last minute. It came down to a razor-thin margin, but she won expanded access. No cheers, just a nod from her like she expected it. As she left the room, her phone buzzed with an anonymous encrypted message. "Back off or join him in freefall." It hit like a gut punch, but Crockett didn't flinch. She deleted it, squared her shoulders, and muttered to herself, "Try me." This wasn't over. It was just getting started, and she was all in, no matter the cost. Then Crockett put together a tight team fast. Cryptographer Eileen Farouk, who could crack digital trails like they were puzzles. Economist Dr. Celine Hart, an expert at spotting shady money flows. And Colonel Adrian Wolfe, a pro at assessing big-picture risks. They hunkered down in a secure office, feeding stacks of court rulings and financial records into anti-laundering software usually used for tracking terrorist cash. The system churned through it all, cross-checking timestamps and transfers. Then, bam! It flagged 147 sequences where high-impact court decisions were followed by massive capital shifts within 48 hours, like clockwork. The team stared at the screen, realizing this wasn't random luck. It was a pattern screaming corruption. Farouk dug deeper, his fingers flying over the keyboard as the software scanned for live activity. Suddenly, he froze. There was a fresh digital trace, an ongoing trade leaking pre-ruling info on a major antitrust case against a tech giant, priced at $50 million. "This is happening right now," he said, voice low but urgent. Crockett's eyes narrowed. She grabbed her laptop and set up a video call to a senior court administrator she'd suspected all along. The guy answered looking sweaty, trying to play it cool, but Crockett hit him hard. "I know about the antitrust leak. $50 million changing hands before the gavel even drops." He stammered, denying it at first, but she screen-shared the trace, warning she'd expose him to the press in 5 minutes. The admin cracked, confessing he'd passed tips for a cut, his face paling as he realized the end. By the call's end, he resigned on the spot, emailing his letter while still on video, his career crumbling in real time. Hart jumped in next, breaking down the money routes. She showed how the cash wasn't just bouncing through shell companies but routing via sovereign funds from foreign governments, hinting at leverage from overseas players pulling strings in U.S. courts. "This is foreign influence disguised as business," she explained, pointing to maps of transfers. Wolf crossed his arms and dropped the bomb. "This isn't petty bribery. It's operation-level influence, like a coordinated campaign to shape laws." The room buzzed with tension, but pushback came quick. Leadership sent word trying to revoke Crockett's clearance, claiming she was overstepping and risking national stability. She didn't blink. Instead, she leaked a sanitized snippet of the report to a trusted congressional ally, who slipped it to a reporter. Markets trembled that afternoon, stocks dipping as whispers of court rigging spread, forcing leadership to back off and let her keep digging. The high-stakes moment came that night with a protected ex-clerk, ushered in under heavy security, his face half-shadowed and hands shaky as he sat down. He didn't waste time, pulling out printed emails that proved judges' briefs were being manipulated by an external agency. Arguments tweaked, facts buried, all to steer outcomes. They controlled what the bench saw, not the judges themselves, he whispered, sliding the papers over. Crockett leaned in, scanning the proof, but mid-sentence, alarms blared. A cyber breach hit the room's system, files deleting in waves like a digital bomb. Screens flickered, data vanishing before their eyes, and the team scrambled, Farouk yelling commands to isolate the network. Paranoia skyrocketed. Was it an inside job or a warning from the shadows? Crockett slammed her fist on the table, vowing they'd rebuild every bite, her resolve hardening as the attack only fueled her fire. Farouk was deep in the data late that night, sifting through dark fiber traffic when he hit pay dirt, encrypted threads buried in offshore compliance channels, using internal court codes that only insiders would know. These messages weren't after the fact. They were sent hours or even days before rulings went public, with instructions like transfer window 24 hours and execute after confirmation. It proved front-running, where someone was tipping off players to move billions ahead of market shakes. The team went quiet as Farouk overlaid the timelines, showing how these leaks gave unfair edges in everything from energy to banking. Crockett called an emergency briefing the next morning. No frills, just senior analysts and intel folks in a locked room. She projected the timelines on the wall, left side encrypted leaks, right side official releases, and laid it out plain. This isn't corruption. It's insiders creating an attack surface, handing our justice system to the highest bidder. Whispers turned to stunned silence as the implications hit, with one analyst muttering it was like selling national secrets. Crockett wasn't stopping at briefings. She set up an ambush on a key justice who'd benefited from these patterns, cornering him in a private office after hours with no warning. She slapped down overlaid evidence. His rulings lined up with spikes in specific foreign funds, millions flowing right after his decisions. The justice tried to deny it, face turning red, but Crockett pressed, "Your bench calls keep making the same winners rich. Explain that." He cracked under the pressure, admitting there was a funnel agency that filtered briefs, tweaking arguments, and hiding details so judges only saw what fit the agenda. "They made it look neutral," he whispered, sweat beading on his forehead. But midway through, alarms blared. Armed security burst in, yelling about unauthorized access, grabbing for her files. Chaos erupted. Crockett dodged a lunge, slipping out a side door in a tense escape, her hidden recorder catching every word of his confession as she bolted down the hall, heart pounding. Back with the team, they dug into the leak's real-world ties, linking them to massive infrastructure projects like ports, rail lines, and power grids. Not just money, but control over the country's backbone. Hart's forensic traces showed foreign entities pulling strings, turning legal wins into physical assets. A foreign liaison pulled Crockett aside in a hallway, voice low and threatening. "Keep pushing this, and you'll shake alliances. Consequences will follow." She fired back without missing a beat. "Consequences? Like the ones from your diplomat buddy tied to these funds?" Using Hart's trace, she exposed the liaison's own connections right there, demanding interagency action on the spot. The guy backed off, face pale, as Crockett rallied FBI and NSA reps to lock down the leads, turning the warning into her leverage. Enraged by the close call, Crockett went on the offensive. She had Farouk hack into a live trade session they were monitoring, slipping in a dummy ruling leak about a fake energy merger to stir the pot. They broadcast it anonymously through the same channels, watching as panic hit. Markets plunged, $1 billion wiped out in chaos as traders scrambled on bad info. Phones lit up, exchanges froze, and news alerts screamed volatility. In the fallout, a distorted whistleblower voicemail came through a secure line. "The hub is Vestal and Keene. Stop them before they stop you." It was short, auto-deleting after, but it confirmed their worst fears, pointing to an offshore bank as the nerve center. Crockett played it for the team, her voice steady. "They tried to scare us. Now we hit back harder." The room nodded. Then Dr. Alina Carter had been running models non-stop, connecting dots between the encrypted threads and offshore banking layers. Late one night, she zeroed in on Vestal and Keene, a small-sounding private investment bank tucked away on a tiny island nation famous for hiding money. When she overlaid its transaction spikes with the court-linked signals, the match was perfect. This wasn't just a bank holding cash. It was the routing hub for influence trades, the central switchboard where pre-ruling intel got priced and passed along. Within hours, foreign governments moved quietly. Passport flags popped up, travel bans hit key players, and one senior Vestal and Keene exec got detained at an airport abroad on administrative grounds. Everyone knew it was a signal. The net was tightening. Crockett's phone started blowing up with anonymous death threats, texts like, "You stop digging or you disappear." But she brushed them off, telling her team, "They wouldn't threaten me if we weren't close." She doubled security and kept pushing forward, eyes locked on the prize. Then the leaked memo dropped like a grenade. A 42-page internal document from one of the advisory firms tied to the network hit the dark web overnight and spread everywhere by morning. It didn't read like a crime novel. It read like a corporate playbook. Judges listed as assets with risk scores, political committees ranked by exposure, timelines projecting returns based on legal outcomes. Verdicts weren't influenced. They were scheduled like deliveries. Crockett got pulled into a live TV interview that afternoon, the host going straight for it. "Congresswoman, are you saying the Supreme Court is selling verdicts?" She looked right into the camera, no hesitation. "I'm saying someone's selling tomorrow's rulings today, like stocks on Wall Street, priced, packaged, and delivered to whoever pays." The clip exploded online, racking up millions of views in minutes, hashtags trending, comment sections on fire. By evening, executives from connected firms started vanishing. Resignations filed, private jets booked out of the country, offices going dark in multiple nations. The system was panicking, and Crockett could feel the momentum shifting. The ex-clerk showed up again that night, claiming he had more proof, but something felt off from the jump. He handed over a flash drive with new emails that supposedly nailed a justice, but Crockett's instincts screamed setup. She let him talk, nodding along, then called in Farouk for a quick voice analysis on the spot, comparing the clerk's speech patterns to encrypted voicemails they'd traced earlier. The match hit 98%. This guy was linked straight to LC Group, the shadowy coalition behind it all. Crockett flipped the script in a heartbeat, turning the room confrontation dramatic. "You planted this to discredit me," she said, voice calm but cutting. "But your own voice gave you away. Ties to LC Group, the rotating crew that buys influence like it's inventory. The clerk went pale, stammering denials, but under the pressure he broke completely, spilling the full picture. LC Group wasn't a fixed company. It was a temporary alliance of big money players who formed up for specific campaigns, rigged outcomes, then dissolved and reformed under new names. It's not about ideology, he admitted, head down. It's transactional, justice as a service. Crockett recorded every word, turning betrayal into her biggest breakthrough yet. The evidence kept piling up, now linking the trades directly to national infrastructure. Major ports, rail expansions, energy corridors that shaped the country's physical future. These weren't abstract wins. They were concrete control over shipping lanes, power grids, and borders. Crockett stormed a routine White House press briefing the next day, stepping up to the podium uninvited as cameras rolled. "They don't just buy laws," she declared, voice ringing through the room. "They buy the land, the ports, the grids, the future of this country." The words hit like a spark. Outside, crowds that had gathered in support erupted, clashing with security as chants grew louder, signs waving, pushing against barriers. Chaos spilled onto the streets, news helicopters circling overhead, turning the moment into a national flashpoint. Crockett didn't back down. She stood firm, staring down the briefing room, knowing this exposure had just made the marketplace impossible to hide anymore. Carter was piecing together the final puzzle in the dead of night. Her models revealing LC Group wasn't some solid company or government front. It was a phantom entity, a fluid marketplace where judicial outcomes got traded like commodities in a rotating coalition of big money players. They'd form up for a deal, rig the verdict, cash in, then dissolve and pop up under a new name, making it nearly impossible to pin down. The realization hit the team like a thunderbolt. This wasn't just corruption. It was a shadow economy treating justice as a product. Crockett took it straight to the top, walking into a closed presidential meeting with no staff, just raw power around the table. She laid out the evidence plain and simple. LC Group prices rulings like stocks. Shut it down now or we're all complicit. The president leaned forward, asking if it could even be done. Crockett shot back, "We start by refusing to play their game." Her demand hanging heavy in the air as nods started around the room. On her way back from the White House, disaster struck. Her car's systems glitched out in a targeted cyber-physical attack, brakes failing as it veered toward a barrier in what looked like a hacked crash setup. Crockett grabbed the wheel, slamming the emergency override just in time to skid to a stop, smoke rising from the tires, heart racing as sirens wailed in the distance. Security swarmed the scene, but she pieced it together fast. This was no accident. It was an assassination attempt tied to the leaks. Using the car's black box data as fresh evidence, she confronted a complicit official she'd long suspected, a high-level aide in the Justice Department, barging into his office with agents in tow. "Your hack just failed," she said, shoving the logs in his face. Under duress, sweat pouring down, he confessed the pricing models. Verdicts tiered by impact, $10 million for small cases up to hundreds for blockbusters, all routed through LC's network. His breakdown spilled names and dates, turning the attack into her smoking gun. The heat cranked up with a star witness, an anonymous banker testifying remotely from a secure, undisclosed spot. His face blurred on the screen, but his voice steady as he shared live transaction logs of a $100 million verdict trade happening in real time. "Watch this," he said, screen-sharing feeds showing funds shifting mid-testimony for a rigged environmental ruling. Crockett narrated the takedown live to the commission, her voice cutting through. "That's $100 million buying a verdict. Arrest them now." FBI teams raided offices across 3 states, cameras catching execs in handcuffs, broadcasts going viral as the marketplace crumbled on air. The banker dropped one more bomb. Insider codes confirming Supreme Court ties, fueling the chaos. Markets dipped hard the next day, stocks tumbling as investors pulled back from the scandal's fallout. But Crockett didn't let up. She pushed emergency reforms through Congress, cutting advisory funnels and blocking foreign channels. In a final bombshell, she exposed a hidden Supreme Court slush fund funneled through those same entities, millions stashed for discretionary use, but really payoffs. The revelation triggered mass resignations, judges stepping down, officials fleeing scrutiny, shaking the system to its core. Then reforms rolled out fast after the dust settled. No more quiet fixes behind closed doors. Advisory pipelines that funneled manipulated briefs got severed overnight, foreign influence channels blocked, and new transparency rules forced judges to disclose more about their financial ties. Congress passed emergency legislation with Crockett leading the charge, cutting off the old ways the system had been gamed. The public woke up hungry for real change. Town halls packed, petitions flooding in, everyday people demanding to know who was really pulling strings in their courts. Crockett stepped to a podium for her final big speech on the steps of the Capitol, voice steady and clear. "We let a priced system sell justice like it was just another stock. No more. Today we take it back, not for headlines, but for every American who deserves a fair shot." The crowd roared, signs waving, and for the first time in months, the air felt lighter, like the rot was finally getting scrubbed out. But the shadows didn't vanish clean. Late one evening, as Crockett reviewed final reports in her office, her secure line pinged with a new encrypted message. Short, chilling. "The marketplace evolves. You stopped one version, others wait." No sender, no trace, just that warning hanging there like smoke. Her team scrambled to analyze it, but the signal bounced through too many proxies to pin down. Crockett stared at the screen, jaw tight, then looked up at her aides. "They think this ends here? We're just getting started." She vowed right then to keep hunting, turning the threat into fuel instead of fear, knowing the fight against these networks would outlast any single victory. The real shift showed in how the country started thinking differently. Universities added the commission's findings to curriculums, professors breaking down how influence got commodified. Media outlets ran deep dives, treating offshore money trails like crime scenes instead of gossip. Citizens rallied in cities big and small, marching for judicial reform, holding signs that read, "Justice isn't for sale." It wasn't perfect. The system had deep roots. But the conversation had changed from personalities to structures, from whispers to demands. People weren't just angry anymore. They were awake. Crockett sat alone in her office one quiet night, flipping through the last batch of decrypted files. Buried in a routine compliance dump was a single anomaly. A hidden asset trail leading to an unnamed trust, millions still parked offshore, linked to names that hadn't surfaced before. Her pulse quickened. This wasn't cleanup. It was a fresh lead pointing to something bigger, maybe a next-generation marketplace already spinning up. She closed the file, leaned back, and muttered to the empty room, "You evolve, so do we." The screen glowed in the dark, the fight far from over, danger still lurking just out of sight. If this story shocked you, angered you, or simply made you want to know the truth next, don't leave now. Subscribe to the channel below this video and turn on notifications so you don't miss any part. Because what we've just told is only the tip of the iceberg. The real story is still hidden, and it will continue to be revealed in upcoming videos. Thank you for staying this far.